Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Erdley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing, breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business. Welcome to episode 5 of the Resilient Retail Game Plan. My name is Catherine Erdley and I'm your host, as well as the founder of the Resilient Retail Club. The Resilient Retail Club is my membership group for creative product businesses dedicated to helping you start, scale and grow profitable product businesses. You can find out more at resilientretail.com. This week's episode is about one of the most important parts of managing a product business, and that's controlling your stock. This is something that I feel very passionate about, and it's one of the areas where small creative product business owners often struggle because there isn't that much information that's out there. And yet, managing your stock is really what sets product businesses apart from service-based businesses. I know that service businesses, because I run one, have a completely different cost base to product businesses. And the main reason for that is that product businesses have to purchase and manage their stock. Stock management is really one of those things that can be make or break for businesses. And yet it's one of the areas where people really struggle. And there's a number of reasons for that. Often it's because, ironically, to start a product business, you often have to be somebody who is very creative. You need to have a great eye, a creative flair, and that often translates into a passion for product. So the flip side of that is you can suffer from something that I call shiny new stock syndrome. That's all about loving finding or creating new things and being always convinced that the next big product to grow your sales is just around the corner. People who are really creative and passionate about their products are often ready to move on to something new, often before the customer is. And the problem becomes that over time, if you keep bringing in newness before the stock that you have already purchased has been cleared, is that your stock can begin to build up and create what I call a stock monster. So the stock monster is always hungry, and it's the number one challenge for product businesses. You constantly have to be bringing in more stock to grow your sales, but unless you do it carefully in a considered and well-planned way, you'll just be feeding this monster. And unless you regularly clear through the stock that isn't moving in your business, the monster will only grow bigger and hungrier. The stock monster is hungry for money, and it will quickly eat up every penny of profit and more if you let it. So I'd invite you, if you ever feel like there's just not enough profit in your business, is take a look and ask yourself, have you got a stock monster? So what I want to do in today's episode is really talk you through 4 key rules for managing your stock, or the golden rules of stock management. The first one is about making sure that you have a plan. Secondly, it's about ordering the right amount. Thirdly, about trialing and repeating. And the fourth one is about clearing as you go. So what I wanted to do is just give you an overview of these principles to help you start thinking about your own business and how you can control your stock. This is an area that I get into a lot of detail about inside the Resilient Retail Club. There is a course called Grow Your Profits, and it's all about stock management in a lot of depth. So if this is something that really resonates with you, then after the episode, then I do invite you to go check out the Resilient Retail Club and learn a little bit more about the Grow Your Profits course and see if it's something that might be useful for you. So just before we get started, just to highlight that the 17 years that I spent in corporate retailers, it was really all about stock management. It was about coming up with strategies for your sales, but it was really about keeping that stock under control. So this is an area that I have spent a huge amount of my time and effort focusing on. So moving on then to the 4 key principles. Number 1 is about having a plan. When we are talking about a plan, you really want to be sure that you have a stock plan that ties back to your sales plan. So this is about setting a target for the amount of stock that you want to have in your business and sticking to it. So let's say that you've decided you want to carry around 3 months or say 12 weeks worth of stock in your business at any one time. So as your sales are seasonal, most product businesses have sales fluctuations throughout the year. So will your stock holding be, which makes sense because you need more stock in the business during your peak sales times. So then you need to map out how much stock that translates to you having in your business in any given week. Then the discipline, the key really, is about making sure that if you've got more stock than the number that you've planned, that you can't buy any more until you've sold through it. If the stock that you've got isn't moving, it's time to focus on clearing that out before you commit to more stock coming in. The simple act of setting that limit and sticking to it will change your whole way of thinking about how you buy and trade your stock, and it will also protect you against too much of your stock getting tied up at once. So have you ever calculated the number of weeks worth of stock that you have in your business? And how would it change how you think about your stock buying if you did? So the number of weeks worth of stock, quite simply, if we use some simple maths, if you had 100 units of stock in your business, you sold 10 items on average a week, then you would have 10 weeks worth of stock in your business. 100 divided by 10 is 10. So if you can get that mapped out for yourself, of course, this relies on you having a sales forecast or a sales plan by week to start with, which is something else that I'm very passionate about. You can get yourself a sales plan by week, work out how many weeks worth of stock you want to have in the business, work out what that stock budget is using the number of weeks cover, and then you have a number that you can really stick to. So what does it feel like to be in control of your stock and have it mapped out like that? Well, you have a clear plan for yourself. It will give you a forecast for your stock and sales position, even 12 months ahead if that's what you want. You can also map out your product launches to be at the right time for your customer as well as your bank balance. And when things go wrong or if they exceed your expectations, then you know exactly what you need to do to keep things going in a positive direction. You can quickly identify areas of stock that are sucking up your time, money, and space and come up with ways to deal with them. And you can map out your cash flow and not be afraid of unexpected bills. In other words, having a sales and stock plan puts you in the driver's seat of your business. You feel strategic, in control, and able to focus on important things like building your brand, creating or curating amazing products, and continuing to surprise and delight your customers. So that's why having that sales and stock plan for me is one of the most fundamental elements of getting your stock under control and one of the most important things that you can do for your business. So moving on then to the second rule, and that is to order the right amount. So one of the most common questions I get asked is how to work out how many of each product to buy. You've identified what products that you want to have and you're excited to bring them into the business, but now you're at the point where you have to decide how many you actually need to purchase. The first thing that you have to do then is look at the budget that you've set by forecasting out your sales and setting yourself a weekly stock budget. Once you have got that idea for how much stock that you want to have in your business every week, you're able to get clear about how much money you have available at any time to spend on new stock. In retail businesses, this amount is known as open to buy or OTB. Big businesses calculate their OTB by looking at forecast sales, how much stock the business is prepared to carry, and then deciding, therefore, how much money they've got to spend on stock. So set yourself a budget, either for every month or for a whole season. For example, you might want to put in a budget for your Christmas buy. Each product then that you need to reorder or to purchase has to come out of this budget. So you'll need to get clear on that number and keep it close at hand when you're ordering products to avoid going over. So now moving on then to working out the quantities for an individual product. There are 3 main factors that will affect the quantity that you want to buy for any one product. The first one is how many will you sell on average per week? If you're reordering a product that you already sell, you will be able to just look at past sales history for this information. Ideally, look at a minimum of 4 weeks of sales to get an average weekly sales number. And if you've not sold this item before, then what do you typically sell on similar items? For example, if you're bringing in a new lampshade as a home brand, how many per lampshade do you typically sell of your existing stock? The big mistake that people make at this stage is to assume that every item is going to become a bestseller. If you have 15 lampshades in stock and 14 of them sell at a rate of 1 a week and 1 sells 5 a week, don't assume immediately that your new lampshade will match the rate of the bestseller. If you don't have any sales history or are just starting out, then start by being realistic as you possibly can. It takes time to gain traction. Your average website converts at 2%, which means you'll need to be driving at least 50 people to your website before one person buys. So how long do you think that it will take to generate enough traffic to get your sales moving? The second factor affecting the quantity that you need to purchase is how long do you want to have the product in stock for? Once you've worked out how many you think you're going to sell per week, multiply that by the number of weeks you want to stock the product for. If you change your stock twice a year, you won't want the stock for more than 26 weeks. And if you're buying seasonal product, for example, Christmas ornaments, make sure you only buy enough to cover you for the weeks running up to that season. As an example, imagine you are buying a new scented candle. Your current scented candles sell at around 3 per week. You want to change your candle display 4 times a year, so you decide to only buy enough for 13 weeks. Ideally then, you would buy 39 candles, 13 weeks worth of stock at an average of 3 per week. But then the third factor that we need to take into account is how quickly can you get more if you sell out. So let's say you're an independent boutique and you've worked out you need 39 candles. However, the candle supplier is very flexible and can get you more stock within 2 weeks. Now, you don't have to buy all 39 candles up front. In fact, you could buy just enough to cover you for 2 weeks or 6 candles rather than committing to all 39. But if the candle supplier was importing their stock and took 12 weeks to get you more, then you would need to buy enough stock to cover you for that whole 12 weeks. But what if buying more gets me a better price? This is a question that I get asked a lot. It is very tempting to buy larger quantities to take advantage of better prices. However, I would always advise you not to buy more than you honestly think you can sell. Yes, each item will be more profitable if you buy a larger quantity and get a better price, but if you get stuck with more stock than you can actually get through, it will quickly clog up your cash flow and cause major issues. If you really can't make it work with smaller quantities, ask your suppliers if you can give them a commitment to buy that quantity, but perhaps over a longer period of time, for example, a year. Not every supplier will agree to this, but it's worth asking. Refer back to your budget once you've taken all 3 of these factors into consideration. If you're purchasing several items at once, you may find that you run through these numbers and then you find out that you're way over your budget. Again, you do have to be strict with yourself at this point and look at where you can cut back on quantities or even drop a couple of lines in order to come in on your budget. And if you want to free up more money to bring in all the great stock that you're thinking about, well, this is when you have to think about ways to free up more money in your business and to clear out the stock that isn't working for you. The third principle of stock management is to have a trial and repeat strategy. I've talked about this previously in other episodes, but trialing stock basically means buying as little as you possibly can when you don't know anything at all about how it is going to sell. If you're first starting out or launching a new product area, I would strongly suggest that you focus on how you can start selling your products with the smallest possible stock investment. So starting small might mean that you have to create products that are almost prototypes if you're manufacturing, or buy in very small quantities if you're purchasing from other brands. If you're making clothes, can you have a tailor create a handful of garments before you even have a small manufacturing run? With skincare, can you have your products made by hand before moving to a factory? If you're launching a box service or a subscription, can you buy small amounts of products at full retail and put those in your box to trial the concept with the brand's permission, of course? So why should you do these trials? If you estimate how much something is going to sell, even if you're an experienced professional, you only have a 50% chance of getting it right. I've certainly seen this in my career. Every season, brand new products would either sell out much faster than expected, or there would be some that we were fully stocked on that just didn't sell at all. However, once you have even just 2 weeks worth of sales to look at, you have an 80% chance of getting your reorder quantity correct. Trialing also has the benefit of allowing you to just get started. Many people launching product businesses want to keep tweaking their product before it goes in front of the customer so that they can have the perfect assortment. But the truth is, the best way to learn about your products is to try selling them and then listening very carefully to what your customers are saying. You need to find the balance between profitability and cash investment. The chances are you will not make much money at all on any products that you're producing or selling in this way, in this trial format. And even though this is not a very appealing idea to most founders, it's still much better to start small and learn than to overcommit. So, for example, let's imagine you're creating a line of 6 children's dresses. You're going to sell them for £25, and to start with, you pay a seamstress £20 per dress to create each style in 4 sizes. Your total investment is £480. But if you're having them manufactured at a cost price of £8 per garment, if you had to manufacture 50 per style, you would be investing £2,400. So you can see that even though you're paying a lot more per item to have them made by the seamstress, your overall investment, when you know absolutely nothing about your customer, what they want to purchase, then it is much, much lower. So the approach of making a little money on the prototype is only really worth doing if you've already confirmed that you can make the products profitable once you're ready to commit to large quantities. Before you go ahead, even with the prototypes, you want to do the research into the costings so that you are confident that your business plan is solid. So for example, where I have mapped out in the case of the children's dresses, you have a much smaller investment right off the bat, that £480 to have the seamstress make them, against £2,400 to have them manufactured in a manufacturing run. You're tying up much less of your money up front, and you're going to have the opportunity to learn and to build your audience and to understand much more about your customer. However, as I said, you really need to do that research where you go through and find out what the manufacturing cost price is going to be for the next round and understand, okay, I'm going to make them for £20 now, but can I actually build a profitable business if I'm having them manufactured in volume later? It's not worth doing the prototype stage if you're never going to be able to manufacture profitably. Something else that can help with the trial and repeat method and help with your cash flow, certainly, is pre-selling. So pre-selling is something that has gained hugely in popularity in the last few years. For example, having a crowdfunder is a great way to learn about what customers want to see before you put items into production. As long as you are very clear with your customers about how long they may need to wait for products, it can be a really interesting model for learning about what your customer wants. Some people may struggle with this model. So what happens if you can't buy small quantities? So if you're looking at manufacturing, then you may well have run into the issue of MOQs, or minimum order quantities. Manufacturers, even small manufacturers, will have MOQs that will range from, say, 30 to 50 if it's a small facility, all the way up to 3,000 or more. If you're considering using a manufacturer, you can sometimes persuade them to lower their MOQs if you pay them more per unit. You can start the conversation by asking them what it would take to get 50 of something, for example. They may still not be able to accommodate you, but it's worth asking. If you can't get a manufacturer to come down on their MOQ, consider how you could have the product made in another way. Again, going back to our earlier examples, can it be made by hand, for example, for the first run, just so that you can create what you want without overcommitting on quantities? You need to always be thinking about reducing your risk. While it's exciting to be planning your new product launch, always keep in mind that you need to manage your risk, and overspending on stock is a very real risk that product businesses face. You want to do as much as you can to reduce your commitment in the early stages so that when your products do take off and start selling, you'll have the cash to really get behind them when you need it most. And the final principle of stock management is to clear as you go. One of the issues with stock is that it can feel very personal to you as a small business owner. You've spent ages deciding on a new range, you've got it photographed, you've promoted it, and you've shipped it off to your customers. The stock that you have in your business is something that you've chosen yourself and put your own money into. So of course you are very invested in whether or not it sells. However, the disadvantage of having such a connection to your stock is that, like a difficult relationship, it can be hard to know when to let go. Even if you love what you've bought, even if you had really high hopes for how it was going to appeal to your customers, and even if you can't understand why it isn't flying out, the bottom line is this: if the stock is not selling, then you need to clear it out of your business. Clearing your slow stock is the key to a healthy cash flow. Imagine that your stock is not a physical product, but instead it's a pile of cash. So if something costs you £10, imagine instead of that piece of stock, it's an actual £10 note. If you look at the stock this way, you can quickly imagine how much of the cash in your business is tied up in your stock. Product businesses run effectively when they keep a tight control on the amount of stock that is in the business at any one time, because sitting on too much stock is the number one way to quickly get into difficulties with your cash flow. Think about cash flow as if it really was a stream. You want it to flow. You spend money to go out to purchase your stock. That money then comes back to you when you sell that stock. And so the money is flowing out and in and out and in. If you have stock that isn't selling, it's like there's a rock that is blocking the stream. And very quickly, that stream becomes a trickle because you don't have the money coming back in, so you can't then spend the money on getting more stock in to sell. The money starts getting trapped in your business and the cash is no longer flowing, it is getting stuck. And that's why you need to be thinking about those rocks, thinking about those blocks of stock that aren't selling and how you can free those up to get some more cash in. So every business has best sellers and worst sellers. Within every business, there are always hero products or best sellers, and there are also things that don't sell or worst sellers. Pareto's principle, which is also known as the 80-20 rule, shows that, roughly speaking, 80% of your sales will be coming from around 20% of your products. Take a look at your business. Based on the last 3 months' sales, what percentage of your sales were your top 20% of products taking? Chances are it will be a large percentage, even if it isn't quite as high as 80%. On the flip side, that means that around 80% of your products are only going to be taking 20% of your sales between them. These slow-selling products are known as the tail. The key to having a profitable product business is to reduce how much stock is in your tail so that you don't end up with lots of products that aren't generating much cash for you. So try to clear as you go. The phrase clear as you go just means that you should regularly, maybe 4 times a year or even twice a year, take action to have a clear out of slow sellers and discontinued items. It means tackling the problems, items that you bought in but didn't sell, bestsellers that you rebought but then stopped selling, or products where you had to commit to really high minimum quantities, which means that you were left sitting on extra stock. To clear the stock, you need to run a sale. For a stock clearance event, I suggest that you take a deep discount, for example 50%, and run it for a short period of time, like a few days or a week. You want to make as big an impact as possible. Change your homepage to a sale banner, promote it on social media, perhaps run an Instagram stories sale or something to emphasize the urgency. If you only do this 2 to 4 times a year, it's not going to damage your brand, especially if you make it clear that this is a clear out rather than an ongoing promotion. Doing it regularly also means that you shouldn't have huge amounts of stock to clear each time, allowing the sale lines to sell out quickly and reinforcing the idea to your customers that if they want to get it at a discount, they have to be quick. Think about it in the same way as you would think about clearing out your garage. It can feel really upsetting to sell off at a discount the products that you've paid good money for in the past. It's usually the top reason that people don't clear out their stock as regularly as they should, because they are convinced that one day they'll get a full price sale for that item. However, if you think about when you clear out your garage, I remember selling off some no longer needed buggies that had been stored away for a couple of years. I sold them for far, far less than I bought them for, but I was just glad to get the space back and have some spare cash. And it's the same in your business. You want your time, energy, and money focused on new things. People love new things. It's just human nature. Did you know that on the typical website, a new in page is usually one of the most visited? And for example, if you're selling to wholesale customers, the one thing they always want to know is what's new. So you need to have that consistent flow of new stock into your business. That's not to say that you constantly have to be coming up with new product ideas, but you do need to be introducing new colours, options, sizes, or versions of your existing products on a regular basis. And if you buy products from another brand, you want to be able to buy their new ranges or introduce exciting new brands to your customers. Think of it as a chance to have a new conversation with an existing customer or to offer something new to someone who hasn't bought yet. However, if you try to keep bringing in new stock to a business when you're not clearing out the old stock effectively, very soon you will run out of time, money, storage space, and energy as your whole business gets overstocked. So there you have it. Those are my top tips on the key principles for managing your stock. Make sure you have a plan. Be clear about how much you need to purchase each time. Trial and repeat to minimize your risk and clear the stock as you go. And if you do all of these things on a regular basis, then over time, you will be able to really get in tune with how much stock your business needs to run effectively. You'll be able to keep that stock under control so it's not eating up all of your spare cash, and you will be well on your way to creating a really profitable product business. So that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Do come along on Instagram at Future Retail UK, share what your biggest takeaway was from that. Tell me what you're going to be doing next in terms of managing your stock. If you do go and look at how many weeks worth of stock you've got in your business, let me know, were you surprised? Were you horrified? Or actually, did you think, no, this is looking good. I'm really happy with where I'm at. So do come along at Future Retail UK on Instagram. Also, I love to see where you are when you are listening. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you can be notified when new episodes launch. And it really helps me if you rate and review. And finally, if you are on Facebook, then come along to my free Facebook group, Female Founders in Retail. And again, share your takeaways from today's episode. How are you going to be looking at stock differently in your business going forward? If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then I invite you to check out resilientretail.com. The Resilient Retail Club is the membership for anyone wanting to start, grow, or scale a profitable product business. No more trawling Google trying to find the answers to your questions or wading through general business advice that speaks mainly to service-based businesses. Whether you're still at the idea stage or you've been going for a while but want to get more focused and organised when it comes to your business, with a library of courses tailored to creative product businesses, several live sessions a month, and a supportive and active community, the Resilient Retail Club is the perfect membership to help you hit your goals faster. Check it out at resilientretail.com.